Hey everybody, it's Lady Kaylah here, and welcome to the Geekdom. Today I'm going to do a book review, Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman, or As Told by Neil Gaiman. And I was really excited to pick up that book because Norse mythology was something that I really wanted to read more up on, and I love different sorts of mythologies, and Norse mythology in particular are one of the mythologies that I don't really have as much familiarity with, so I was excited, and upon reading it a little bit more and seeing what it was about before purchasing, um, it seemed that Neil Gaiman would be telling the stories as close to the original as possible, so he wouldn't be embellishing them or doing an inspired version. For instance, his the Sandman series is based on a bunch of characters that are inspired by gods and whatnot that exist in different mythologies without actually using like the true source material. He did an embellished version of them or an inspired version of them, and things that happened to them if they lived in a fantasy world that was quite close to our own. So I was going to be excited either way, but it seemed like this would be a perfect opportunity to read a bit of Norse mythology and have it told by one of my favorite writers. And so I picked it up right away, and I was a little disappointed because I was hoping that he would tell the stories as they were, but add detail or a little bit more character development or description, but that's not really how it was. It's exactly just the tellings of the stories in like a way that modern readers can relate to or read without feeling like it's too difficult. Like it's not told in like old-timey language, it's told in like really simplistic language that we can all understand, and in a way that's fantastic, especially if you're using these stories to just tell your kids. And he did write a preface saying that he wants people to be able to tell these stories over and over again. So that explains why it's simplistically done. It was done for a reason. It had an intent. I just love detail and I love embellishments, and I was hoping that he would stay true to the story while adding to it, but that's not the case in this book, and that's only my own personal preference. But again, it would be fantastic for memorizing, since it is told in a very simple folk tale kind of a setup, then that's exactly what it's good for. So it's a nice little book to keep around and memorize and learn all your little Norse myths that help inspire other stories. Apparently, a lot got lost as time wore on, so we have a lot of missing pieces to these stories, a lot of time jumps and whatnot, because they have the creation myth and they also have the end times myth, and obviously a bunch of stuff happens in between. And the way that the Norse seem to tell these stories were that these characters or these gods did go through fun little adventures together, and it was way more than just the creation myth and the end times myth. So it was a fun read regardless. I was reading it on the plane back home and I was laughing out loud, and people around me were giving me looks, but it was funny. Thor's funny, Loki's funny. These characters have, such attitudes, even though it's like simplistically told. They're each their own character, and they're just funny. The way they interact with each other is very kind of like a family dynamic, and it's just fun. And I like how they also touch on different values that we don't have in our society. Obviously, they have more warrior-centric values than we tend to have as a society, and or at least in American society, our wars are like different when it comes to like actually the core center of like what we value in a society. Wars kind of more distanced from us than in this society where war is something that they are centered around 100%, to like even like their afterlife is centered around battle, and it's just Thor's always like fighting someone. So it was really interesting to read that and kind of get a little insight into their culture and what they valued, as well as how relatable they are in terms of like their character interactions. So it was nice. It was fun. I got to learn more about some of the, I guess, creatures of that world, like the giants and the dwarves and whatnot versus the elves, and what the difference between them was, and stuff like that. Stuff that I didn't know. I always had my assumption of what dwarves are, but they're a little bit different than what I had thought. So it was really nice to see Norse mythology and apply it to what we see, for instance, like Marvel's Universe, Thor, and how we see giants, elves, and dwarves in our own fantasy of today. It was really nice. It's a nice read, and I do recommend it. But if you were looking for something embellished, something with great detail, this isn't it. This is more like folk tales and easy to kind of memorize format that is in this book. So it's still a fun read. It's definitely good if you wanted to learn the Norse mythology tales without any embellished details, and kind of just take them for what they are and what we have left of these mythologies from the Norse people. So we will end that here. And if you're interested, it's Neil Gaiman's Norse Mythology. And yeah, if you've read it, let me know what you think in the comments below. And until next time, bye.